Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into an important and often challenging topic: managing narcissistic leadership in the workplace. We'll explore how to recognize these behaviors, protect ourselves and our teams, and ultimately thrive despite the obstacles. This presentation is designed to offer comprehensive strategies tailored for employees, organizations, and HR professionals alike. I'm excited to share insights and practical approaches that can make a real difference in your work environment. Let's get started. In this section, we'll explore how to manage narcissistic leaders in the workplace, starting with defining what narcissistic leadership really means. We'll dive into the key traits that characterize these leaders and discuss the often overlooked costs they impose on organizations. You'll also learn to recognize the warning signs that indicate you might be working under narcissistic leadership, and we'll examine the cycle of abuse that can develop in these situations. Furthermore, we'll look at why people sometimes stay in these challenging environments. Finally, we'll begin with immediate protection strategies, covering practical steps like documenting interactions, using communication techniques to reduce conflict, setting boundaries effectively, and building a strong support network around you. Here we'll dive into two case studies, one on Microsoft under Steve Ballmer and another on Uber under Travis Kalanick. Then we'll explore strategies for building long-term resilience, focusing on protecting your mental health, maintaining professional performance, and understanding when to involve HR. We'll also cover important legal considerations, planning your exit strategy, and recovering after leaving a challenging work environment. Finally, we'll look at approaches for organizations and HR professionals, including identifying narcissistic leaders during hiring, creating accountability systems, and intervention strategies for current leaders. On this final section of our presentation, we'll explore how to build cultures that actively reject narcissistic leadership. Then, we'll review a summary of the key learning points we've covered. Finally, we'll wrap up with a thank you and provide the references for further reading. When it comes to managing narcissistic leaders in the workplace, there are some important insights we need to consider. These ideas have been developed by Dr. Jawad Sebaali, who has studied this topic extensively. Understanding how to navigate the challenges posed by narcissistic leadership can help us maintain a healthier work environment and improve overall team dynamics. It's crucial to recognize the behaviors typical of narcissistic leaders and to develop strategies that balance respect for their authority with the need to protect the team's well-being. This framework provides practical guidance to help us do just that. On this slide, we'll focus on the key learning objectives that will guide our discussion. First, we want to be able to identify narcissistic traits. Understanding the specific behaviors and patterns that define narcissistic leadership in the workplace is essential. Next, we'll explore how to protect your well-being by adopting practical strategies to maintain your psychological safety when dealing with a narcissistic supervisor. Then, we'll look at ways to navigate difficult interactions, including communication techniques that help reduce conflict and safeguard your professional reputation. Finally, we'll cover how to build resilience by setting personal boundaries and establishing support systems, giving you the tools to not just survive, but thrive despite challenging leadership. These objectives will help you face these situations with greater confidence and clarity. Narcissistic leaders are characterized by a few key traits. They tend to have an inflated sense of their own importance, a strong need for admiration, and a noticeable lack of empathy for others. They genuinely see themselves as superior and constantly seek validation to reinforce that belief. When it comes to team dynamics, these leaders rarely give credit where it's due. Instead, they often take ownership of successes, overshadowing the contributions of their team members. Interestingly, studies show that about 1 in every 20 senior executives exhibits these narcissistic traits. This isn't just a personality quirk, it can significantly influence how decisions are made and impact relationships in the workplace. Recognizing these patterns is crucial. It helps us differentiate between effective, confident leadership and harmful, pathological narcissism. Most importantly, this awareness empowers us to protect ourselves from manipulation or gaslighting that might otherwise cause self-doubt. When we look at the core characteristics of narcissistic leaders, the first thing to highlight is their grandiose self-perception. These leaders tend to exaggerate their achievements and talents, often expecting recognition as being superior, even when their accomplishments don't really justify it. They also operate under the belief that rules apply to everyone else, but not to themselves. Next is their excessive need for admiration. Narcissistic leaders crave constant praise and can become quite hostile if they don't receive it. They tend to surround themselves with people who mirror and reinforce their inflated self-image, and they usually dismiss any constructive criticism as a personal attack, rather than valuable feedback. Another key trait is their lack of empathy. These leaders show little concern for the feelings or needs of others. They might exploit relationships purely for personal gain, and often fail to recognize the negative impact their behavior has on team morale. Finally, there's their strong sense of entitlement. They expect others to comply automatically with their wishes and react with anger or rage when challenged. For them, any disagreement isn't seen as a chance for dialogue or growth, but rather as insubordination. These characteristics together create a challenging environment for those working with or under narcissistic leadership. When organizations have narcissistic leaders, the impact can be surprisingly costly. Research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology reveals that teams led by narcissistic leaders experience turnover rates that are 35% higher than usual. This means more employees are leaving, which disrupts stability and incurs recruitment costs. Moreover, employee engagement suffers significantly, dropping by about 28% compared to teams with healthier leadership. When people feel undervalued or obsessed with managing their leaders' demands, their motivation and connection to the work decreases. This decline in engagement also translates directly into lower productivity. Team members often spend a lot of their energy trying to manage the leader's ego, instead of focusing on their actual tasks. Innovation takes a hit too, since narcissistic leaders tend to reject ideas that challenge their authority, stifling creative solutions and growth. On top of these challenges, the workplace culture itself starts to deteriorate. Trust gives way to fear, causing employees to hold back honest feedback and ideas. This silence can lead to unresolved problems and a toxic environment. Finally, under narcissistic leadership, employees become risk-averse. Instead of collaborating and pushing boundaries, they focus on self-protection, making choices that keep them safe rather than driving the team forward. This shift ultimately hampers the organization's long-term success. One clear warning sign is when your leader criticizes you publicly, but only praises you in private. This kind of behavior damages your reputation in front of your colleagues while keeping the leader's authority intact. Another red flag is credit theft, when your ideas are presented as their own during meetings or reports. They take individual credit for team successes and downplay your contributions, which can be incredibly demoralizing. You might also notice their reactions are unpredictable. Their mood swings dramatically if they feel their ego is threatened, and even small disagreements can provoke an over-the-top response. This often leaves you walking on eggshells, constantly trying to manage their emotions. Lastly, watch out for triangulation. This is when the leader creates divisions within the team by playing people against each other, sharing confidential information to stir conflict, or showing favoritism. These tactics help them maintain control by preventing the team from uniting against them. Recognizing these behaviors is crucial to understanding if you're dealing with a narcissistic leader. The narcissistic cycle of abuse typically follows 4 distinct stages. First, we have idealization. During this phase, the person showers you with praise and attention, making you feel valued and special. However, this doesn't last forever. Next comes devaluation. This is when the criticism starts to increase and you begin to feel less appreciated and often confused about what went wrong. After this, we enter the discard phase, where they suddenly withdraw their attention completely, leaving you feeling abandoned and hurt. Finally, there's hoovering. This is when they come back with attention or small gestures, trying to pull you back into the cycle. Understanding these stages helps in recognizing the pattern and breaking free from it. Many capable professionals find themselves staying in toxic situations longer than we might expect, and it's important to understand that this is often due to real psychological factors, not personal weakness. Recognizing these reasons helps us make clearer, more informed decisions about whether to stay or move on. One major factor is trauma bonding. This creates intense emotional ties to abusive leaders or environments. The constant cycle of approval followed by criticism forms a psychological grip that's hard to break free from. Closely related to this is the concept of addictive intermittent reinforcement. In narcissistic cycles, moments of approval act like a hit of dopamine, creating a craving for more, even when the overall environment is damaging. This pattern is very similar to addiction, which explains why it's so difficult to walk away. External concerns also play a big role. Practical worries like financial stability and fear of damaging one's career often discourage people from leaving. Plus, the hope that things might improve keeps many stuck, holding on through the tough times. Finally, constant criticism wears down self-confidence. When you're repeatedly questioned or doubted, it's natural to start doubting your own abilities. This self-doubt makes it harder to consider other opportunities or take the leap to change your situation. Understanding these factors is vital to breaking free and making empowered choices. When we talk about immediate protection strategies, the very first and most important step is prioritizing your own safety. The key idea here is simple: protect yourself first. Before you can help others or address any situation, you need to ensure that you are out of harm's way and secure. This means being aware of your surroundings, recognizing potential dangers, and taking quick actions to shield yourself from any immediate threats. Remember, your safety is the foundation for everything else that follows. Without it, everything else becomes much harder or even impossible to manage effectively. When dealing with a narcissistic leader, the first crucial step is to begin with detailed records. It's important to document every interaction carefully, as this not only serves as concrete evidence but also provides emotional validation for you. Next, be sure to record specific data: dates, times, any witnesses present, and exact quotes. Saving emails, messages, and notes about promises that were made or broken adds important context and strengthens your record. After gathering all this information, it's vital to secure your documentation by storing it outside of company systems. Using personal devices or encrypted cloud storage helps protect your records from deletion or tampering. Finally, maintaining objectivity through your documentation is key. These written records act as a firm countermeasure against gaslighting, confirming what truly happened based on what you have carefully chronicled. This thorough and secure approach is essential for protecting yourself in challenging situations. When dealing with difficult interactions, one effective strategy is to use the grey rock method. This means becoming uninteresting and unresponsive. You keep your responses short, factual, and emotionless. By giving minimal information and not reacting, you take away the attention narcissists thrive on, making them lose interest quickly. Another helpful approach is to choose written communication whenever possible. Sending emails rather than having face-to-face conversations creates a clear record, which helps prevent manipulation. It also ensures your message stays consistent, without risk of your words being twisted later. It's also important to avoid what we call jade responses. That's justifying, arguing, defending, or explaining yourself. Instead, clearly state your position and don't engage beyond that. This limits chances for the other person to draw you into unnecessary conflict or use your words against you. Finally, when giving compliments, try to redirect them in a way that protects the other person's ego. For example, say something like, "Your vision really helped me," instead of framing accomplishments as your own. This thoughtful communication style helps reduce friction and promotes harmony in your interactions. When dealing with toxic leadership, especially narcissistic leaders, it's important to understand that direct confrontation usually doesn't work. They tend to see any attempt to set boundaries as a threat to their authority, which can make things worse rather than better. So instead of challenging them head-on, adjusting the way we communicate can be more effective. This means starting with small changes, like not volunteering extra personal information, and setting clear limits on your availability outside of work hours, mentioning family commitments or other obligations to justify it. It's also helpful to emotionally detach a bit from seeking their approval. This shift protects your energy and reduces vulnerability. Next, establish clear personal boundaries. That includes practical steps like leaving the office at a reasonable time and ensuring you take breaks away from your desk. Physical and temporal boundaries make a big difference in maintaining your well-being in the workplace. Finally, when your boundaries are tested, the key is to stay composed. If they push back, calmly restate your boundary without elaborating or getting defensive. For example, simply saying, "I cannot attend meetings after 6 p.m." is enough. Repeating your boundary in a steady, emotion-free way often reduces resistance over time and helps maintain your limits effectively. When building your support network, start by connecting with trusted colleagues who truly understand what you're going through. These are people you can share your experiences with, but it's important to be thoughtful about what and how much you share to maintain trust. Next, don't underestimate the value of family and friends. Keeping strong relationships outside of work is crucial because they offer emotional support and help you see the bigger picture when work pressures feel overwhelming. Professional counseling is also a key resource. Therapists can help you process any trauma and develop healthy ways to cope. Additionally, career mentors, especially those outside your immediate workplace, can provide valuable guidance on your career path and professional growth. Lastly, make sure you know your rights by consulting with HR or legal advisors. They can offer the right advice if you're thinking about making any formal complaints, ensuring you're protected and well-informed throughout the process. Here we have a case study focusing on Microsoft during Steve Ballmer's tenure as CEO from 2000 to 2014. It's important to note that this information comes from publicly reported accounts, including those of former employees and analysts, so we're looking at a well-documented view rather than a personal opinion. Ballmer's leadership style was often described as volatile and intimidating. Reports from former staff talk about incidents like public humiliation in meetings, thrown chairs, and aggressive verbal outbursts. Ballmer himself later admitted to having a very intense management approach. This style had a significant impact on Microsoft's performance. During this time, the company lost its spot as the most valuable tech firm in the world. Stock prices remained flat for over a decade, and critical talent began to leave for competitors like Google and Apple. Innovation slowed down, with Microsoft struggling to keep pace. Internally, employee satisfaction took a hit. Surveys revealed a culture driven more by fear than creativity, which led to cautious, risk-averse decisions. A clear example of this is the Windows Vista launch, which suffered because fear-based leadership hampered innovation. After Ballmer left in 2014, the new CEO Satya Nadella shifted the leadership style to one based on empathy and collaboration. Since then, Microsoft's market value has soared by more than 600%. This turnaround clearly shows the real cost of narcissistic, fear-driven leadership and the benefits of a more positive approach. In this case study, we take a closer look at Uber Technologies during the tenure of its former CEO, Travis Kalanick. Our analysis is grounded in publicly available information, including key sources like Susan Fowler's enlightening blog post, the comprehensive Holder report, and various investigative journalism pieces. These perspectives help us understand the company's internal dynamics in an educational context. Focusing on Kalanick's leadership style, we see a complex picture. While he was undeniably instrumental in expanding Uber into a global powerhouse, his approach also fostered a toxic workplace culture. His leadership exhibited strongly narcissistic traits, which significantly influenced the company's values and overall environment. This combination of aggressive growth and problematic culture underpins much of what we explore in this case study. In this chapter, we're focusing on building long-term resilience, how to not only survive difficult situations, but truly thrive despite the challenges we face. It's about developing strength and adaptability that carry us through tough times and help us grow stronger in the process. This mindset isn't just about short-term fixes. It's about cultivating habits, perspectives, and strategies that ensure we can bounce back and keep moving forward, no matter what comes our way. Working under narcissistic leadership often leads to chronic stress, which can seriously harm both our physical and mental health. Research shows that long-term exposure to such environments increases the risk of anxiety, depression, and even heart-related issues. To protect ourselves, it's important to develop mindful routines. Starting the day with meditation or journaling can act like psychological armor, helping us face the workday with a stronger mindset. In the evening, having a routine that separates work stress from personal time is equally crucial. Physical exercise also plays a key role in managing stress by lowering cortisol levels. Even short walks during lunch breaks can make a real difference. Since toxic environments often disrupt sleep, prioritizing good sleep habits is essential for recovery. Finally, seeking professional support can be very beneficial. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy help us challenge and change the harmful thought patterns caused by gaslighting, while EMDR therapy can assist in processing traumatic experiences from the workplace. All these strategies combined can help safeguard our mental health in difficult work situations. To maintain professional performance, the first step is to focus on measurable results. This means documenting your achievements with clear, specific metrics. By doing this, You protect yourself from any false accusations of poor performance and ensure you have solid evidence to back up your CV when pursuing new opportunities. Next, it's important to set personal standards. Define success based on your own professional criteria rather than relying heavily on your leader's approval. This shift helps you empower yourself psychologically by reducing dependence on external validation, making you more confident and self-driven. Finally, build external visibility. Get involved in industry groups and contribute valuable insights. Look for chances to publish articles or speak at professional conferences. By doing this, you enhance your reputation beyond your immediate workplace, which opens doors and strengthens your professional standing. When deciding whether to involve HR, the first step is to evaluate the HR department's role within your organization. It's important to understand their track record and what they prioritize. Does HR genuinely advocate for employees, or do they mainly serve management's interests? Talking to colleagues can provide valuable insights about how HR typically handles complaints and whether they offer meaningful support. Next, consult with colleagues who have previously raised concerns. Their experiences can shed light on how responsive and helpful HR has been in the past. By learning from their outcomes, you can better gauge whether bringing your issue to HR is the right move. When filing a complaint, focus strictly on policy violations. Make sure you have clear, specific evidence of behaviors that clearly breach organizational rules, like discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. It's crucial to avoid complaints driven by subjective feelings or personal conflicts, which may not be taken seriously. Also, be mindful of your language. Present your complaint objectively and factually, avoiding emotional or biased statements. Keeping your communication professional and non-emotional helps maintain credibility and keeps the discussion focused on the real issues. Finally, prepare yourself for potential backlash, especially if you're dealing with narcissistic leaders who might respond with hostility. It's wise to have an exit strategy in place, such as securing alternative job opportunities, before you proceed with filing a complaint. This way, you protect yourself from possible negative consequences and maintain control over your career path. Let's begin by discussing constructive dismissal. This occurs when workplace conditions become so intolerable that they effectively force an employee to resign. This situation usually arises when an employer breaches the terms of an employment contract, for example, by creating a hostile or toxic work environment. Before making any decisions to leave, it's crucial to consult with an employment solicitor to understand your rights and ensure you have a strong case. Next, we move on to reporting protected disclosures, often referred to as whistleblowing. This protection is in place for employees who report illegal activities, health and safety risks, or breaches of important regulations within the workplace. The Public Interest Disclosure Act of 1998 safeguards workers who make these qualifying disclosures, meaning you have legal support if you come forward with such concerns. Finally, it's important to recognize discrimination and harassment, especially when dealing with narcissistic behavior that targets protected characteristics. Under the Equality Act of 2010, harassment related to age, disability, race, religion, sex, or other protected categories is strictly prohibited. If these issues are present, you not only have moral grounds but also stronger legal protections to address the situation. When considering an exit strategy, the first important step is to recognize the benefits of leaving a toxic work environment. Often, the healthiest long-term solution is to move on before burnout becomes overwhelming, since being completely drained can make job searching much harder. Next, it's essential to revise your professional credentials. This means updating your CV to highlight your achievements and transferable skills. At the same time, focus on expanding your professional network. LinkedIn, industry events, and informational interviews are great ways to connect with potential opportunities. Also, take the time to investigate workplaces known for their supportive and healthy cultures. Targeting companies that align with your personal values and career goals will increase your chances of finding a job where you can thrive. Financial preparation plays a big role too. Aim to build an emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months of expenses and try to cut back on unnecessary spending to boost your savings. This financial cushion will give you more flexibility when planning your transition. Finally, plan your move strategically. Ideally, secure your next position before leaving your current job to maintain financial stability and career momentum. If you must leave urgently, seek advice from legal and financial professionals to help you navigate your options carefully and make the best decision possible. Right after leaving, the first few weeks often bring a sense of immediate relief, both physically and emotionally. You might notice that your sleep improves, anxiety starts to ease, and sometimes you even feel a bit euphoric, as if a weight has been lifted. Then, from about 1 to 3 months in, comes what we call the processing phase. This is when you begin to really work through the experience. It's completely normal to feel anger, grief, or confusion during this time. Therapy can be especially helpful here, providing support and guidance as you navigate these emotions. Between 3 and 6 months, the focus shifts to rebuilding your confidence. This period is all about regaining trust in yourself through small successes and positive experiences in new environments. These wins, no matter how minor they may seem, play a huge role in restoring your sense of self. Finally, after 6 months, you reach the integration phase. Here, you're able to take the lessons learned from your experience and weave them into your life without feeling trapped by what happened. You begin to truly trust yourself again and move forward with renewed strength. In this chapter, we focus on systemic solutions designed specifically for organizations and HR professionals. The idea here is to tackle the bigger challenges that exist within workplace structures, not just isolated issues. We'll explore various methodologies and strategies that can help implement meaningful, transformative changes across the organization. Key practical approaches include fostering a culture of inclusion, boosting operational efficiency, and enhancing employee well-being. These elements are essential to creating lasting improvements that benefit both the people and the organization as a whole. When trying to identify narcissistic leaders during the hiring process, there are several effective strategies to consider. First, behavioral interview techniques are key. Asking candidates to share moments when they made mistakes, faced criticism, or experienced failure can reveal a lot. Pay close attention to how they respond. Narcissistic individuals often become defensive, blame others, or downplay their errors. Next, gaining insights from reference checks is crucial. Don't just speak to supervisors or peers. Make sure to include references from people who reported directly to the candidate. These direct reports can offer valuable perspectives on how the candidate treats those with less power, which is often telling. Personality assessments also play a vital role. Tools like the Hogan Development Survey are designed to flag potential counterproductive leadership traits. When combined with structured interviews, these assessments give you a more rounded view of the candidate's character. Finally, observe how candidates interact with support staff, such as receptionists or administrative personnel. Disrespect or dismissive behavior in these everyday interactions can be a red flag for narcissistic tendencies. Together, these approaches help build a clearer picture of who you're really hiring. When creating accountability systems, the first step is to establish strong feedback mechanisms. This involves implementing 360-degree feedback systems that gather anonymous input from everyone, direct reports, peers, and supervisors alike. The key here is making sure this feedback is meaningful by tying it to critical outcomes like compensation and promotions, so there's a real incentive for honest and constructive evaluations. Next, it's essential to develop transparent escalation paths. Organizations must set up clear and accessible channels for complaints, making sure these routes bypass any accused leaders to prevent conflicts of interest. To strengthen this, HR should be accountable directly to the board when it comes to reporting serious complaints, ensuring impartial oversight. Monitoring organizational culture is another vital part of accountability. Regular culture surveys help track important factors like psychological safety, trust in leadership, and overall employee well-being. By paying close attention to trends, especially sudden declines within specific departments, leaders can address problems early before they escalate. Finally, distributing power and maintaining oversight helps prevent abuse of authority. Instead of placing unchecked power in the hands of a single individual, organizations should implement distributed power structures. This involves creating mechanisms to ensure decision-making is transparent and involves multiple stakeholders. This balance promotes fairness and accountability throughout the organization. When addressing intervention strategies for existing leaders, we begin with a private feedback session. Here, it's essential to present specific examples of behaviors along with their consequences. Using concrete data from sources like complaints, exit interviews, or surveys helps make the feedback clear and factual. Importantly, we focus on actions, not attacking the leader's character, to keep the conversation constructive. Next, if needed, we implement a performance improvement plan. This involves setting measurable behavior goals that the leader must meet, with clearly defined consequences if they don't. Requiring executive coaching supports their development, and setting regular review timelines ensures progress is monitored closely. If improvements are still limited, the third step is to reduce the leader's authority. This might mean fewer direct reports or a smaller decision-making scope, all while keeping a close eye on their performance. This step also prioritizes protecting employees during the intervention, preventing further negative impact. Finally, if there is no meaningful change, termination may be necessary. In these cases, the well-being of the wider organization takes precedence over retaining a problematic leader. This is a difficult, but sometimes essential action to maintain a healthy work environment. To build cultures that reject narcissistic leadership, the first step is to revise leadership competencies. This means defining what it truly takes to be a leader by including qualities like empathy, collaboration, and ethical behavior. These should be valued just as much as business results when evaluating performance, making sure we reward the right qualities. Next, we shift to promoting relationship-based leadership. We want to recognize leaders who genuinely care about developing their teams and creating an environment where people can grow. It's about valuing leaders whose teams thrive because of support and encouragement, rather than those who push for results through fear or intimidation. Then we encourage team-oriented recognition. Instead of spotlighting individual heroics, we celebrate team successes. This helps reinforce the importance of working together and achieving shared goals, reminding everyone that great results often come from collective effort. Finally, sharing stories of ethical leadership plays a powerful role. Through company communications, we highlight real examples of leaders who demonstrate strong ethics and positive behavior. These stories serve as inspiration and help embed the cultural values we want to uphold throughout the organization. Let's recap some of the key points about narcissistic leadership. Narcissistic leaders often show traits like grandiosity, where they have an inflated sense of their own importance. They have a strong need for admiration and tend to lack empathy, meaning they may struggle to understand or value the feelings of others. Additionally, they often exhibit a sense of entitlement, believing they deserve special treatment. These traits can significantly affect both employees and the overall integrity of the organization, often leading to a challenging work environment and potential ethical issues. Understanding these characteristics helps us better navigate and address the impact of such leadership styles. Thank you all for your time and attention. I appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Here are the key references that informed our discussion. The first is a study by Campbell and colleagues from 2011, which explores narcissism within organizational settings and its impact on human resource management. The second reference is a personal account by Susan Fowler from 2017, where she reflects on her experiences at Uber during a tumultuous year, highlighting important organizational issues. Both sources provide valuable insights into the topics we've covered.